6 days after the new website for Worm dropped and the forums are on fire, but the stock price has surged. Are we in a better place or are we worse off? Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Bloody Drongo and I have been documenting the fascinating rollercoaster ride that has become Worm Online's current tumultuous situation. If you aren't sure what I'm talking about, you may want to check out these 2 videos to get up to speed. In my first and second videos, I talk about the role of Game Chest Group and the fact that they are publicly traded as a company, along with some speculation that one of the reasons they may have rushed what was obviously an incomplete project specifically to be out on the 30th of June was if there had been a commitment to any of their major stakeholders or even to try and boost the share price heading into the Swedish summer holidays. And I have to say, at this stage, if this was the case, this has actually been a success for GCG, with their share price at the time of recording now seeing its longest continual improvement in price that they have seen since August 2022, which is certainly notable. Along with this, it's also been the biggest gross share price improvement since February when Krista took over as CEO. Contrasting to this apparent good news has been the community reaction to the new rebrand and website, which I think is fair to categorize as overwhelmingly negative. The forums have been on fire with passionate and sometimes outright angry feedback, and there has been some really odd responses to this from the staff side. Before we jump into the peculiar staff activity, I do just want to take a brief moment to remind people to please remember that when we engage with people, you are speaking about and to another person here on the internet. So please ensure that criticism is given in a constructive and a non-insulting or toxic manner. And for those of you who have already engaged in the ongoing dialogue in such a way, a massive thank you. Okay, with that said, let's dig into this peculiar activity starting with Krista. Since his post announcing the new website on Friday last week, he has remained silent on the forums until Monday, at which point he went back to reply to a series of comments made on another forum post of his announcing the team changes back on the 14th of June. This is really interesting to me because he has obviously spent a good portion of time responding to these messages, some as old as 2 weeks. However, has specifically gone out of his way to avoid addressing any kind of community feedback regarding the website and implicitly avoiding any kind of ownership of that reaction. Obviously, he may yet address it. However, given it's been nearly a full week now, it seems more and more likely that it will be ignored. Or maybe it's just that he does not see his stand-in position as the project director as requiring him to address it. So maybe somebody else on the team will be taking responsibility. Which leads me on to the second staff member whose activity I found interesting, and that is Samul. As project manager, he is currently one of the most senior staff in Worm, and to my understanding to what that role would entail, I'm willing to speculate that he has likely been one of the people who has been extremely involved in the website project. And much like Krista, he has been silent. In fact, his last post on the forum was back in October 2021 when he announced that he would be stepping down from the project manager role. That is until today, when he replied to a very strange forum post by Steve Lee, which was in the form of some kind of poem talking about how Enki had the rug pulled out from under him and that he'd been cheated and misled and should be given back his job or a different role, which was then echoed by a handful of other players in the community. Sadly, it seems that Steve Lee has gone back and edited his dozen or so back-to-back posts, so I can't show you much of what was said, but it is very interesting that Samul, instead of addressing the feedback on the website and the rebrand, felt it was more important to go out of his way to clarify that Enki is still a GM and that there is ongoing discussions to involve him in some kind of event role. This post normally wouldn't raise any eyebrows, but the fact it's literally the only topic in the past 2 years he's felt required his input, I'm honestly not sure what to make of it, especially when compared to what his input on the website release conversation would have meant to both myself and the community. Finally, we have Demona, Worm Online's Community Relations Manager. This is the final point of contact that I'd personally expect to see working to address the negative community sentiment, and to her credit, she has at least done that somewhat. As her job title is Community Relations Manager, I do have mixed feelings about this because it feels as though she is being given the task of being the one to address the negative reaction of the community instead of the people who were triumphantly able to announce them or have actually directly worked on them. However, on the other side of this, it would be rightfully able to be argued that this is exactly what her job is. But to me, it does seem a little bit ordinary. Either way, considering the reaction of the community, a couple of sentences saying that the team is working on a handful of the issues that were highlighted seems underwhelming if this is the best we're going to get as a response. It fails to really articulate that they have missed the mark with their update and really doesn't show any kind of ownership and any kind of communication that feedback has been properly heard. From my standpoint, I think the best piece of news from the past few days is that Catspur, or Melina, is once again helping out with the Worm team and their art assets. Being the individual responsible for the Worm Steam launch trailer and a fellow content creator, I have full confidence that she will be able to help the rest of the team make some significant improvements to the website. So now, at this point, it really is just fingers crossed that the team are going to be able to make quick work of bringing the website up to a standard that meets the community's expectations and is actually representative of the game. But there is one big question, and that is, has Game Chest Group or the Worm team learned anything from this widespread community backlash? It's really hard to say since it still hasn't been addressed properly. However, if the share price of GCG is going upwards, it may actually be the case that this will be celebrated as a win despite the community reaction. Which worries me, because if that is the case, it could be a dangerous precedent to set of making decisions that make eye-catching press releases at the cost of player confidence and satisfaction. What will come next? I don't know, but I will be alongside you all documenting it. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take it easy. Cheers.